Joining us this morning, Andrew Eborn, who is a broadcaster and barrister extraordinaire, joins us to take us take us through this morning's papers. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely. A joy to see both of you as always.
Do you think this is my mum's blouse?
No, your mum's got an even nicer blouse than that. It's an absolute, and I love seeing her on the show on Mother's Day. So
yes, she
glorious.
She really enjoyed it.
You should bring her back more often.
I know. I think there's something in mum sitting there dispensing wise advice.
Corner.
Yeah, you know, because obviously I hear it all the time. Like, I wouldn't do that if I was you.
I think Mum's Corner is a lovely little strand. I think you could do it because
they do.
They really do.
I think this is the one to do. Well, I tell you what, it's another week, another resignation. This is what we have in the papers, so all over the place. And this is the problem with resignation. I always say history repeats itself because people don't learn the lessons from history. So the BBC chair, if you didn't know already, has quit as the row over Tory sleaze grows. So this is the story. Basically, Richard Sharp, he quit as the BBC chair yesterday after investigation concluded that he'd failed to disclose key information about his relationship with former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. And this was all to do with the loan and so on and so forth and everything else. So people are looking at this and say, well, hang about, this has taken a very long time coming. Richard should have basically disclosed this much earlier on and so on and so forth.
Well, to be fair to him, he said he did disclose this, didn't he, to Simon Case, the Cabinet Secretary, earlier on in the process. And Simon Case somehow has forgotten that conversation. So, and I don't know who's right or wrong here, but when you look at Richard Sharp, he said, I disclosed this at this point. I therefore thought I didn't need to disclose it again. I've already done it. And I understand that.
I think you're absolutely right, and it's good in the interest of balance. And Richard's a lovely man. I've met him, I've dealt with him, as you know. I chair some of these debates and these things, so on and so forth. I do, of course.
Of course.
But what happens there, it should be a clearer process. And what I always object to about this sort of side is that people don't sort of turn around and say, this is how you should disclose it. So you've got transparency on this. I suggest doing it in writing rather than telling one individual who might forget it, and work on that sort of principle.
But how do you disclose? You know, I've helped the Prime Minister introduced him to somebody who's going to give him a massive loan, and by the way, I'd like this job, please, that the Prime Minister has the final say over.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting one, isn't it? Also, in terms of that timeline, when did he actually apply for that job? When was the loan done, and all the rest of it? And actually, you found a really funny cartoon, didn't you? This morning?
Did in the Times.
And what was the cartoon?
I will find it again.
Yes.
It's the puppet one, isn't it?
It's the puppet one.
Very good. Well, whilst you're looking for that, absolutely, I can show you. There's also a cartoon.
So can I? Oh yeah, sorry. What?
I was going to say. I'm just going to talk because it is about Sharp. It's only about Sharp and that sort of stuff. I always like to refer to Matt as you're looking for that sort of one. And so Matt has got this glorious cartoon that says the management power struggles at the BBC would make a gripping, high-budget Netflix series. That is true. You know, it is quite extraordinary. But what's interesting about this as well is that it gave another opportunity for Gary Lineker to say something. And so Gary came out tweeting away merrily, and he basically sort of said, well, it's wrong for the government to appoint the chair. It should work on that sort of basis. So everybody's now coming out reinvigorating the debate about presenters on TV channels, on the BBC in particular. Should they have a view on anything?
No.
Did he resign? No.
Well, Gary Lineker.
No.
So I've got the cartoon here.
So if we can show the cartoon, I don't know if you can see that. So it is the test card there with Boris Johnson wearing a glove puppet with the chairman there of Richard Sharp on his hand. Beautifully done.
Beautifully done. Not that many people will know what the test card is anymore.
People of our age do.
Yes, and what the puppet is saying is there was no conflict of interest.
No, I know. But actually, going back to Gary Lineker, I thought, have you not learnt your lessons? You were told not to interfere. Here he goes again. So he obviously thinks he's above the law and above the BBC.
But he's back. So, and they're now looking at these rules and regulations about what presenters can say. My personal view is that if you're a newsreader, it's very clear. You obviously can't comment because you have to be impartial. I don't mind a sports presenter having a view.
I do. I'm paying him 1.4 million.
But so what does the figure have to do with anything? Why does it matter if you're paying £1.50, as some of them mostly earn?
Also, let's be very clear here, because the BBC Charter is enshrined in law.
Absolutely.
And that means that Lucy Fraser, the Culture Secretary, recommends the successor. So whether Gary Lineker likes it or not, that is the law.
Absolutely. But is he, and we all get that, but is he allowed a view?
No.
And is he allowed... Why? But why not?
Because it's a public service broadcaster.
But so what? He's a presenter. And if you were doing a cookery history show. Does it matter?
But the BBC is supposed to be unbiased.
Oh, the BBC is unbiased. It's supposed to be, and we live in a very diseased...
Are you watching a different BBC?
You've got to provide balance.
I mean, look, I worked there for a long time. I hosted primetime shows, and I was very careful all the time. I never made any political comment whilst I was hosting.
I worked on BBC Radio London. And
I mean, so we didn't make any political comment because it's not your place.
I understand, and this is why they're looking at those rules and regulations as we speak. And we live in a very diseased information space at the moment, so we need a trusted public service broadcaster more than anything. And trusted, it arrives on foot but leaves on horseback. And I think that's the problem. The BBC is not...
Good.
I thank you. I'm here all week.
That's really good.
I'll get these little sound bites.
I need to remember that.
I'll scribble them down. It's good.
You can have expressions. I'll keep that one.
But you work on that basis. So we need to look at the BBC. We need to look at the rules and regulations. My point is, make it clear so somebody knows you've broken the rule. It's very simple. This is what you do.
Do we need to look at Simon Case as well? And bear in mind that Number 10 made 2 calls on behalf of Richard.
Yeah.
2 phone calls to help him get that appointment.
Yeah, very interesting, the role of Simon Case, isn't it? And also he
seems to have muddy hands all of the time.
Well, yes, when things go wrong, he's often not far away.
And in his defence...
no, indeed. I mean, we are only speculating, obviously. Let's move on. You want to talk again about the story that we mentioned right at the top of the show, about surgeons.
Well, absolutely. So surgeons operating only once every fortnight, and they're saying they carry out scheduled operations basically on that sort of principle. So it's really difficult. Having 2 doctors, doctors were in trouble. It's really interesting to hear your views on this, because the pressure's on them to do that, and it's all sort of tied in as well with all these strikes and presenting threats to Great Ormond Street and so on and so forth. The reality is we need to look at alternatives. What's going to happen that we can make this more efficient? And it's a fascinating... They're all interrelated, but it's like a fascinating sort of research saying that ChatGPT will be better than chatting to your GP. Now, I often say this. I love coming on this show...
Actually, I'm going to correct you.
I love coming on the show because it's like poking the bear every time.
It doesn't say it's better than your GP in terms of the advice. It says it's more compassionate in the way it answers.
And it also, because it has the time, it says, do your doctor's emails seem rushed, uncaring and unhelpful, perhaps even robotic? Well, you're wrong in at least one respect, as an actual robot, as study shows, might well be more helpful, is what it said. So I always say about this thing, let's look at artificial intelligence, let's look at AI, let's look at robotics. Can it assist? And ChatGPT has the ability to provide more information, be more patient with the patients on that sort of basis.
I know that my patients would much rather have a call with me, if not a face-to-face, and I really do. And actually, I think this opens up a bigger debate. Why are NHS staff so demoralised that compassion at points appears to have left the building?
Well, because it's the first thing to go when you're tired.
When you're tired and you're beaten. And
but we know that from being on call. I mean, I started my 3 days on call being lovely and sweetness and light. By the end of it, I was not sweetness and light, let me tell you.
And that's the great thing about it. It will always be sweetness and light, and because now you can imitate virtually anybody. It's like the fake Pope. You remember the devil may wear Prada, but the Pope prefers puffers. You remember that? Remember that wonderful picture of the fake Pope and that sort of stuff? You can now basically fake sincerity. You can fake anything, but you can now get your voice. So when your patients ring up, they can chat to a ChatGPT and think they're speaking to Renée. Or
that's misappropriation or misrepresentation.
You would license your voice. I'm an advocate for this as well.
Oh, I know someone who'll do that deal.
I'll do this. I'll do the deal. And that's what will happen. So the future, all these demands, whether it's you're a surgeon or you're a nurse and so on and so forth, what's going to happen is going to accelerate AI, it's going to accelerate robotics, and all the better for it.
You see, so I will defer to Renée now, but medicine is an art and a science.
Yes.
And so there are nuances in there which a robot cannot get.
Yes, and we are actually seeing Babylon, for example, the GP group that have done a lot of work into robotics and algorithms. They're actually packing up and leaving cities now because it's not working and it's not making the money, obviously, which is the main thing.
Why? Because patients don't conform?
Because it's too hard. The algorithms get it wrong. You know, that someone who's having a heart attack is told to go and take some Gaviscon, you know.
But we've seen that with 111 as well, where they go through the list of questions, and then also if you don't know, you need to understand the information given back to you.
You do, and you need to do the follow-up.
You do, because you also need to know those supplementary questions.
Yes.
So there's no good doing tick boxes, because at the end of it, you'll come out with a different answer.
Look, I'm absolutely sure that in some specialities, like radiology, where you can teach a computer to look at had 1 million X-rays.
That's good.
That's good, and I think that will change. I think when it comes to surgeons operating, I think the point that's being missed here is we know that someone becomes a lead violinist when they've had 10,000 hours of practice, and surgeons are not even getting 1,000 hours of practice before they're out there, and that's what we need to address here. Why are we not looking at our workforce, understanding people want a better work-life balance, and employing more doctors?
So answer this bit. You alluded to this earlier about the private sector, and I know this to be true too. So the private sector, the operating theatres run very efficiently because time is money. So there is no downtime. There's no dead time.
While one patient's being finished and the other one's being prepped.
So why are we not running the NHS
because
like that?
We don't have staff to have 2 anaesthetists, one at the patient on the bed and one in the prep room. We don't have the equipment. We're trying to save on equipment and time, but also we don't have the will. These people are worn down. Why are they going to rush?
Yeah. So, but do you think, I mean, you're absolutely right, and it's absolutely essential to make that point, but technology and AI has a role in assisting with that, and I think that's important.
I've just told you, I believe.
Exactly, so believe that sort of stuff, and it's not the only profession which is being affected. We had the Master of the Rolls this very week saying that in certain instances AI will be better than some lawyers. So they're talking about judgments being automated through AI and so on and so forth. So I think we don't.
But I can understand that being a little easier in that, isn't it? More
applying the law.
Well, yes, I was going to say, isn't there more? It's more scientific in many ways because the law is the law. I mean, I know there are shades of black and white, but at the same time, I would have thought that's easier application.
I think you're certainly right. I always view it like a judge and a jury in a criminal trial, if you like. The jury's there to determine the facts, which have got all the nuances and everything, where you need a human to do that. But the judge tells you what the law is, and it's very interesting. So I appear on behalf of the plaintiff. My learned friend appears for the money. I know you work on that sort of principle where they're trying to turn around and make sure that you can disseminate the law. That's the great way of doing things. And I think look at the same thing with medicine. If they've got a way that they can make things more efficient, then that's got to be good.
And I think as long as it is about efficiency, I think as a human being, I'm going to say this: do I want my life run by robots and AI voices? And my answer is clearly no. I like people, real people, and that's how I want it to be.
But I think that's the myth, though. As I say, it's not going to be a robotic voice. It will be your wonderful dulcet tones.
I want a human being that I can touch.
So we need to move on, but I do wonder, particularly for the elderly who are lonely, actually, isn't it better to have a robot companion than
absolutely? And they would prefer someone than nobody. Exactly.
No companion.
Absolutely. That's my point.
I'm going to reserve judgment.
Okay, let's move on and talk about strike action.
Yeah, a strike action, same sort of thing. Is the nurses on that sort of basis? They are striking. As I predicted last week, they failed in their sort of attempt to get the extra day in because somebody didn't work out the figures.
Really silly that they went all the way to court.
But also, it's such a waste of money.
Yes.
Because I told them, I'm sure lots of people told them, sorry, 6 months means this, work it out. You're going to
the robot could have told you that.
Exactly, you could have tapped that in, and that's a perfect example of where robotics could have helped.
Yeah.
From a legal point of view, are they going to get away with it? Can they get the extra day because they wanted to tie it in, obviously, with ambulances and so on and so forth, to cause as much disruption as possible, or has time run out? Well, it was fairly easy. It was a waste of money. I was on a debate on a wonderful channel, very similar to this, and talking exactly that sort of stuff with nurses and so on and so forth.
Who paid for that? Who paid for the legal action?
Well, they both sides. The union picked it up.
We paid.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Exactly. So what a waste of money. So looking on that sort of thing, when you could have turned around and make these issues very, very important, absolutely give them a voice, and that this is rules and regulations are there, but comply with the rules and regulations for strikes, and you start stretching things and wasting money, you'll lose interest.
I don't know your feeling, and I asked this yesterday when I did breakfast. I asked whether people actually still had sort of were on side with the strikes, and I just wonder whether the nurses are now pushing it a little far.
I think very simple. As soon as you start bringing children in, and it's going to affect them, as the headline said about Great Ormond Street Hospital, you're going to lose everybody. You work on that sort of basis, and it's exactly there. There we go.
The NHS strike to pose threat to Great Ormond Street. I mean, it's incredibly emotive, isn't it?
Of course, and deliberately so. This is what you're going to do. And of course, I'm surprised. So what you do, you say your action, you're going to kill children, is effectively what you're saying.
Because I don't believe that any hospital, Great Ormond Street, is more affected than any other hospital.
It's not.
But it does bring home the message, doesn't it?
It does, but it's also made the nurses respond. The nurses have now said, actually, we will cover. So actually, that's worked.
Yes.
Well, there's a legal obligation, and as I say, strikes, the rules are very, very clear, certain rules as to how you can strike and in what sort of circumstances, but it also mustn't endanger life. I know that's one of the issues.
Did you have something on health myths?
Yes, so there's a wonderful thing here, very quickly. This is in the glorious magazine here, the sacket with good old King Charles on the front. Some of these health myths. So, does an apple a day keep the doctor away? True or false?
I would say no.
True.
It is false. It's completely untrue. Carrots help you see in the dark. Is that true or false?
Stop.
Well, it's so nuanced. No, it's not completely untrue. And the answer with the carrots is yes, they do. But they do.
If an apple is the only piece of fruit and veg that someone's eating a day,
you're right.
That's better than having just McDonald's.
And if a Mars bar is the only nourishment you get any time at all, that will save your life. Absolutely. So you
throw that away.
I love it. I'll do one more. Feed a cold, starve a fever.
No, so I know where that came from. My dissertation was on it. It was actually the other way. It used to be. It's because when you have a fever, you don't want to eat.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
That's why.
Oh, very good.
So it's actually the other way around.
So is it true? Or false, but the other way round.
Feed a cold, starve a fever.
So you need to eat when you have a cold, basically.
So it's more accurately to say feed a virus, starve bacteria. Is that
rubbish?
Well,
rubbish. Doctor, would you agree?
Yeah,
thank you. Right, rubbish. Good. New king for our times on the mirror.
Oh, I love it. Here we go. Coronation just 1 week away. There he is. As I love it, I've got my little Union Jack all ready to
Where
wave.
Did you get that?
Well, I found it. I reckon there's a few of them working somewhere. It's got to be good. So what it is, he's going to do a pared down coronation, saving the money. And what it basically says is that as he prepares for next week's coronation, exclusive Mirror survey revealed 80% of the people back him, that he's going to be doing this pared down equivalent.
So this is really interesting. We talked about it on the talk this week, and one of the surveys said that only 50% of people were interested in the coronation, and I said I don't believe that. I actually feel it's much higher. And they never ask people in the rural areas, do they? And certainly my village is having a lot of things.
They're going to Islington again.
Yeah, of course they are. But at the end of the day, and actually I have to tell you, I'm hosting a coronation breakfast next week.
How exciting.
Yes, that's very exciting.
Will you have a coronation quiche? Fantastic.
We have a lot of things up our sleeves.
I do.
Very long sleeves, yes. The question is whether I'm wearing morning suit or not, but we'll see. But anyway, so that's all very interesting. Coronation being...
Oh, I love this. So this is what to expect. I mean, wall-to-wall television from everybody. So Caitlin Moran in her thing said phrases to look out for as you're doing this. So we'll all talk about the weather. So if it's sunny, there will be words along. And the sun has come out on this, the most splendid of occasions. So you get a little point for that. Or the brilliant sunshine ushers in a new Carolean era. And if it's raining, she's saying the rain not dampening the mood of the crowds outside.
So true.
Is
Can I show this picture?
Go for, yes. Lovely picture.
I love this. Let's put this down. I love this picture. It's like a mugshot of Charles. There we go. And this is when he matriculated at university. And I love this strap along the bottom that says Wales HRH, the Prince of.
So brilliant.
It is hilarious.
I don't know. I'm very excited for next week.
Oh, I love it. I'm really excited. And what's the sad thing, however, is anybody who applied for the Royal Concert the following day, a scandal about this. I can tell you, reveal the scandal. Did you apply?
No, I didn't, but I saw what happened.
Yeah, so what happened is this. They said in the original stuff that it was going to be a ballot, and if you've got your tickets, you got your tickets.
Right.
I, all of a sudden, was very excited. I got this email from Ticketmaster
saying you were successful.
Congratulations, Andrew, we love you. We're going to give you 2 tickets. And what you have a couple of days to do it. And so I tapped in, very good. They'd all gone. I thought, hang about, what is this? And then in the small print somewhere, they say it's first come, first served. And so I know a few people at Ticketmaster. I said, what's going on here? And
they just
I
sent it to everyone.
So what happened is exactly that. Anybody who was in the ballot, the first time they did 1 round apparently and gave some tickets away, which were guaranteed tickets.
So now they're on Viagogo.
But all they can't. Security's really, really tight. But apparently the second round, they turned around and sent everybody who applied this email, which I received. And I bet the people at home, if you received that email, let us know. But I tell you, it was.
It's
appalling. The excitement, and the disappointment I felt would be the disappointment which everybody around who received that email felt.
It's really sad. Andrew, thank you very much indeed. Very lovely to see you. That's Andrew Eborn, broadcaster and barrister extraordinaire. Right, time for a break. After the break, Tom Clayton will be here with today's sporting roundup. This is Talk TV.